This is Jenna Burt, host of the Confessions of a Military Spouse podcast. Thanks for listening to the following broadcast on Public House Media.
Hi everyone, welcome to Beauties and Headcanons, where we're nerdy, and you probably are too. As usual, I am here with Teegan, and we are here to talk nerdy to you. This week, we're going to call this like the, C2E2 addition to, continued, something like that. But first, Teegan's going to talk about Gaming Corner.
Alrighty, so as you guys know, if you follow our social accounts, which you should be following our social accounts, I had posted earlier this week, they finally came out on Sunday with the Spawn trailer for his particular character for Mortal Kombat 11, and I am so psyched and so excited and so happy that he's finally getting here. Like, this whole Kombat Pack, I feel, has been kind of like underwhelming. Like, we had a couple of iconic characters from the original Mortal Kombat, but then, it kind of just dropped off into kind of gimmicky characters. So I wanted to talk just a little bit about that. For me personally, like, there's really only like two characters I was super interested and excited about. Like, Shang Tsung obviously was really cool, but he's not the type of character that I play with. So even though it was cool to see him included in the Kombat Pack, it was more of like, oh, well, I'll probably make an AI of him, but I won't actually play as him. So Nightwolf was like the actual first character. I was like, oh yeah, I'm excited. We're finally getting Nightwolf back. And, I was excited to go out and play as him. And then Spawn, of course. And, they were released kind of at opposite ends almost of the Kombat Pack from each other. So I've had to wait months and months and months of Sindel and the Terminator and Joker to finally get to Spawn. And I'm so excited. He's finally dropping over next week and the week after. I feel like this past Kombat Pack has just been kind of underwhelming because I think NetherRealm has kind of relied on these gimmicky characters like Terminator and Joker a little too much. I don't think Joker was necessarily going to be included because of the Joker movie, because they do the Injustice games as well. So, including a DC character is not just like totally out of the norm. They've done it before. But it just, they've done Joker several times now. I'm kind of getting sick of Joker in general. And especially recently, I feel like they can't really nail down the Joker anyway. Like, from the design to the voice, like, it just does not work for me at all. So that I was kind of turned off on. And then the whole Terminator, I think they included to kind of help hype up that Dark Fate movie, which was absolutely horrible. So, great going with that. The voice actor that they got, which allegedly Arnold actually handpicked, but he was completely terrible. Like, he was only just barely better than Dimitri Vega, who did that awful Sub-Zero skin. So, I feel like they really should kind of take a step back with a second Kombat Pack and, like, refocus on just the Mortal Kombat characters, because those are the characters that, I get excited to see in a Mortal Kombat game. Amazing concept, I know. People want to see Mortal Kombat characters in a game, And I mean, like, one or two is fine, but I feel like it should really be spaced out. The Mortal Kombat characters should be more present than the gimmicky characters. So, I mean, even though Spawn is technically not a Mortal Kombat character, he is kind of one of the gimmicky characters. He kind of fits in with that universe, I think, a little bit well, as opposed to, maybe Terminator, who's kind of an seemingly random, odd choice. So far, we haven't had any official announcements regarding a second Kombat Pack. They normally do about 2 per game, at least, I think, because they've done some for Injustice, they've done some for the previous Mortal Kombat. So I'm hopeful that they will come back with a second one, and they'll come back with more characters that are kind of better suited and characters that are a little bit easier to get excited about rather than just kind of thrown in there as, you know, a way to hype up a movie or a TV series or something like that. So that's my little gaming corner rant for the week.
Okay, so C2E2 is a comic and entertainment convention in Chicago. The convention center has different parking lots, and you're like shuttled to each parking lot before you know you really can't park there. And last year when it was just Aurelia and I, we were running late. I was really hoping that one of the parking lots would come through for us, and they didn't. So we ended up like up the street, no big deal. And this year was the first year that we actually did cosplay. The boyfriend and I did an aged Linda Belcher. It was tons of fun.
It looked like a lot of fun.
Mostly because, you know, the best part about cosplay is that there's like no rules. There's no rules. You can do whatever you want. And I was kind of like freaking out because I didn't think people would really recognize what was going on. My wig wasn't right. I wanted to curl it and cut it, but I just ran out of time. So I kept it long because when else can I use a long gray wig all the time? So I was really excited to just kind of like leave it and hope for the best and hope that the red shirt and the apron and the glasses would really get it. So there was a couple of fun times where people not only like said that Linda's my hero, and I was like, yes, thank you, because they got it. Or at some point in time, Judge Dredd walked past Jason and I and was like, Mr. and Mrs. Belcher. So it was a completely different element for me. Now I look back on it and I'm like, oh my gosh, I didn't get any pictures in the actual convention center. I disappointed myself because the year previous to that, I took pictures of everything. I took pictures of both art. I took pictures of T-shirts. I took pictures of all kinds of stuff. And this year we were like walking down Artist Alley, buying everything under the sun. The amount of things that we now need to frame and put on the walls is insane. It was me, Jason, and Aurelia. I think each of us got 3 to 4 pieces of art each.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. It's ridiculous.
Although I can't say I would have that much self-control either.
Oh, man, it was so bad. But then, you know, we got over to where people are just selling wares of other people, and you suddenly realize you made all the best choices by buying people's art that they actually created, which is, like, the best part for me about being at a convention like that, because anyone who knows me knows that I support local as often as I possibly can. So being able to, like, give these starving artists my money so I can put their stuff on my wall was pretty awesome. And it was like essentially what I was going for the whole day was just to, you know, make sure that we saw as much as we could, did as much as we could in particularly in the convention center. So we made it to Artist Alley, and it's just a ginormous room. Oh, and I forgot to say. So last year we were supposed to see David Tennant and Matt Smith, and Matt Smith canceled last year. And guess what? He canceled this year again too.
He really
and as far as I know, there weren't any
C2E2.
like. Apparently not. And you know what's funny? I had a friend of mine who was like, "Oh well, maybe he." You know, his agent said he couldn't do it or something. And I was like, oh, get out of here. Who cares? Just don't sign yourself up then.
Yeah, like...
Don't get people all hyped up. Or what if he didn't have enough people signed up for autographs and stuff and he decided not to come? That just makes him a douche.
I don't know.
You know what I mean?
That's really weird. Like, for the second year in a row, it's like, you know, it's not like this comes out of the blue.
Exactly. It's a convention that everybody in Chicago knows about for the entire year. Like... Already planning cosplay for next year, buddy. And I can't dress as Matt Smith because you're not going to be there either.
Yeah. That's weird.
Yeah, and Aurelia, like, was talking for the whole week about how she was going to be able to meet Matt Smith. And I totally, like, didn't buy anything ahead of time because I figured if he's going to be there, then we will get in the line. If she really wants a picture, I'll buy it on the app like I did for David Tennant. It'll be fine. He didn't come. Guess what? I guess I saved $100.
Yeah? Because, I mean, would they have refunded you that if they cancel?
I don't know. I have no idea how that works. That's why I don't spend the money.
Because you're smart.
There's media coverage about it. Suddenly he was just not on the app as a guest.
That's weird. Because, like, if...
And I'm not in the Facebook group because he actually has, like, a private Facebook group that you have to join. You have to, like, be a member, which means it's, like, managed by people on Facebook. It's not really, like, him.
Yeah.
But I was like, oh, maybe I should see if there's some kind of media coverage about it. Nothing. Radio silence. Mm-hmm. It was, like, really super sad. But anyway, that was my fun little tangent. Okay, so Artist Alley. I have all kinds of really fun stuff from people came up in droves for what we missed out on Christmas, truly. There was, Amelia has like a tea time picture that I bought for her, so now we're going to have, you know, Baby Yoda drinking tea in our kitchen. There's some neat apps out right now, too, where people are making like cyberpunky comics and posters, and this app that it actually makes it so that the pictures and like the comic book pages come to life. So, I mean, like, I can't even explain better than that. It's just super cool. Really interesting stuff. I think my favorite part is seeing what's new and what's different and trying to figure out what people are dressed up as. Because truly, I am out of my depth with what everyone's dressed up as. If you weren't dressed up as a Mandalorian or some old Doctor Who reference or something, then I probably didn't get it. And I was really like thinking about how would someone make a app on their phone so that you could take a picture of a person who's dressed up and you would be able to like tell the app to look up what this is, and there'd be some kind of algorithm or something to determine what that cosplay was, so that you can either like look at the show or look at the anime or manga or whatever it is, or read into it, look at the other characters, anything like that. Like the amount of She-Ra characters and Final Fantasy. There's just so much cool stuff out right now. So there is the thing new that I wanted to ask you if you know about Inspector.
I don't, it's not ringing any bells for me, no.
Okay. It's a manga from like 2011 that's just kind of cool. Like, interesting, if nothing else, to see what everyone's dressed up as and what's going on. And Aurelia was so upset because she's at that age where she really wants to do everything herself. Yeah. Like, there's no way mom could possibly have a opinion or an idea or anything, really. So she wig that I had bought her, and she butchered it. She lost her wig cap, so we were scrambling to try and figure that out. And all her entire outfit that she wore that day was like gold or beige or yellow in some way, shape, or form. And she was really upset and like really angry. And she's a Gemini, so she, you know, cycles through these pretty quickly. But she was super, super irritated, and she couldn't get the costume to work. She didn't even want to be dressed up anymore. She just wanted to put on her Talk Nerdy to Me shirt and be done with it because she was so upset. And I was like, well, Aurelia, your name means golden, and you're basically wearing a whole bunch of golden, so why don't you just pretend you're your own superhero and just tell people you're yourself? Like, what's the big deal? And she, you know, like, took about 5 seconds and then was like, oh, that's a really good idea. And, you know, conveniently her hair is kind of like a golden brown color. Yeah. So I was like,
she looked adorable.
You got this, kid. And then she never, you know, she was never approached or anything about that, because she goes to these things and she wants pictures with all the She-Ra characters and everybody under the sun. And she, I think she might have been asked once or twice, like, what she was dressed as or what she was hoping for. And she told him, and she was, like, you know, real sad about how things didn't work out for the character that she had wanted to play, but she, you know, had decided to just come as herself, and everyone was like, oh, that's so awesome, that's so great. And it was such a cool, like, group of people. It always is a cool group of people. Like, I'm always impressed with how everyone reacts, being, you know, 35 years old, being 12, being 17. It's just a cool group of people. But it was so fun for me to, like, see her transform into this, like, not disappointed, but super owning it kid. But that's the thing, is I want to make sure that we're better about our cosplay or whatever costumes we come up with, because I've always got these ideas in my head, and then suddenly it's a week before the event and I forget that, you know, Amazon can only get so much stuff to me in time for whatever.
And sometimes there's a lot more to it than you initially think of. You're like, oh wait, what about this and this and that? You know, so it
and that's essentially the same. Sorry, go ahead.
So like, you know, sometimes, you know, like with Aurelia, especially like sometimes last minute things, you can hit a snafu and like it doesn't really work out. But I think
you give yourself more time, then you can avoid those snafus a little bit better too.
But I think like, you know, in the grand scheme of things, like if something like that happens, like even if you do prepare like 100% beforehand and something just happens, like it's like, you know, you just got to adjust and go with it because at the end of the day, it's not the end of the world, you know?
Well, and that's essentially, too, what happens with the whole modeling thing that I've been doing a lot lately, too. There's been some really cool stuff to plan, and I'm just like the queen of procrastination. I just don't get it together early enough to really handle these things. So right now, I'm working on something for her and I that's going to be awesome. It's going to be amazing. And thankfully, I've got like 3 months to get it together. Or maybe 2. I guess it's 2 months now. But I've been thinking about it for a while, so I've had 3 months. But essentially getting all of those things together and not making it so that I'm ordering something from Amazon or trying to go to Goodwill 2 nights before the day, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
That's what I always do. It'll be fun to actually be prepared. And, you know, there's the steampunk stuff that's coming up as well. And I think that's going to be loads of fun too, especially to like have the funding, have the ability to plan what I want to plan and do things the right way for a change. Like maybe 2020, I won't be a procrastinator so much as someone who gets things done and plans for them ahead of time. I don't know. I'm not going to lose my mind if I don't, but
you can always try to be better.
It would be fun to be better about it. Exactly. The Geek on Fleek I wanted to talk about today, just so I can insert that bad boy in here, is actually conventions and COVID-19. We live in very different parts of the United States, so I was wondering what you've heard so far, because there's been a lot of developments in the past couple of days regarding what we are doing, what we should be doing, and let's be honest, we can go on social media and be inundated with conflicting opinions as to what we're supposed to be doing.
Well, I know here in North Carolina there has been, I believe, at least a few confirmed cases, last I heard. I know Duke Hospital specifically is like setting up to really be like the one to handle it. And my husband works in housekeeping at a hospital, and he actually works in the ER. So he's actually like kind of more or less first point of contact if somebody comes in. He said there's been a huge increase in the number of people coming in just for symptoms. And there have been a couple of people where it's like maybe they had it, but they tested them and they didn't have it at all. It was the flu or it was something else. So it is kind of like weird, and it's kind of like this surreal concept, you know, that he is working so closely to that, and it's like, you know, he could literally somehow pick it up and bring it home, you know?
Right.
But, you know, fortunately, I don't think there's been any activity in Harnett County specifically yet.
Okay.
But it's just something that, you know, obviously, especially with him working in a hospital, we're trying to keep a really close eye on and, you know, just wash our hands a lot and make sure, you know, we monitor any potential symptoms.
Yes. So here, same kind of thing. The Midwest is interesting. There's been confirmed cases in just about every county around here. Maybe not Milwaukee County, but definitely like Lake County, which is where I'm from in Illinois. Among a few other things, places that are being shut down, or like I'm currently a student and they're extending spring break for next week. So we're not going to be going to class next week, and it looks like they're talking about how many classes they can actually make online as opposed to actually having to go in, go on campus just to see if they can reduce the need to be in a closed environment like that, which is interesting to me because, you know, we have everyone in my family was sick last week. So I got something gross and tried to quarantine myself for about 3 days, and Aurelia still got it, and then Jason got it as well. And that was kind of lousy, but it's interesting to me how people are reacting, where there's both this like incredible fear, where people are buying toilet paper and paper towels and hoarding masks from hospitals and hand sanitizer. And obviously I work in a hospital group. I work in 2 hospital groups here in Milwaukee, and they are both, right on top of it, telling us, what to expect, what's going on. Don't be hoarding masks. And because I work off site, right. Well, and because I work off site at one of them, they're kind of filtering all of our supplies or our surplus of supplies back to the hospital, just to make sure that the people who need that kind of stuff will have access to it, which is great. It was interesting because at C2E2, there were a couple people who were wearing masks. Mm-hmm. And I didn't realize, of course, I'm in Chicago. This makes, I'm in Chicago. Okay, this is a major international hub. I get it. Okay, fine. It was 2 females that were wearing masks, and they did not necessarily look like they were sick. I mean, in all honesty, the masks could have been part of their cosplay for all I know. Then I think I saw them later that day when we were driving away, and I was just like, is this the beginning? Like, is this the start of this? And then, on social media, you see people putting themselves in bags and plastic bottles and all kinds of other, like, boy in the plastic bubble type stuff.
Like, no, that's not going to help.
Right, that doesn't help any. But there's a fine line between, like, being too cautious and being too worried, mm-hmm. and not being cautious enough. And it's interesting, even working in a place that is supposed to be, all focused on health and sanitization, and realizing people do still go to the bathroom and don't wash their hands, and how infuriating that is when, I have to go home and you have to go home, and I don't know if you've got an elderly person at home who might be affected differently than I would be. And whether or not you have hand sanitizer at home, whether or not you have Lysol wipes in the kitchen, that kind of thing. So I just think it's very interesting that we are struggling through this pandemic, and there's so many opportunities to not have common sense, but also that social media and the news coverage is really conflicting as to what to do, how to protect yourself, and like assuming it's going to be like a zombie apocalypse type of thing, because people get scared. People don't read, I guess.
And they don't know how to handle it, I don't think. One of my friends actually lives just outside of Seattle, which has had, a lot of cases and stuff like that. And I know that Seattle has banned events for the time being that will gather 250 or more people in one place. And it's just like kind of interesting, like how a government actually has to step in and like apply common sense rules. It's like, okay, so wash your hands thoroughly, if you don't have to go outside and gather with a lot of people, then don't do that, like it seems like it should be so much common sense, and then it's just not. And people either don't take it seriously at all, or they go way overboard than what they need to.
But it's interesting too at C2E2 that there's bathrooms downstairs that are notorious for being kind of grody, for not being very clean. And I've obviously never been into the men's bathroom, but the women's bathroom wasn't terrible. But then, I go to events in Milwaukee, so I don't know what the standard of cleanliness indoor sanitation is supposed to be there. Right. Like I can go camping and be in a pit, so give me some hand sanitizer, I'm usually okay. But we're also like hyper aware right now of how dirty things can have the potential to be. And it's, you know, you can only account for yourself. You can't account for what everybody else is doing. So in a convention like C2E2 or any other convention, especially with so many people in such a closed area, it makes sense to not go into those situations if you don't have to. But I know a lot of people, a lot of companies, small businesses that are depending on their convention schedule to survive. So I'm more worried about them, you know, in fandoms and geek communities, to be able to keep their small businesses going and to, you know, be able to feed themselves, because they truly depend on those things to be able to keep themselves going for the rest of the year. There's already a couple of companies that I've seen that have posted, like, if conventions continue to be canceled past, you know, April, we are not going to be in business anymore. And that's really something you realize.
It's really like picking and choosing, because I know that E3 has been canceled this year, which, I mean, E3, honestly, I don't think there's that much of a use for it anyway. It just kind of puts a lot of pressure on companies to kind of come up with something new and exciting when you don't really have to. And I mean, like, that kind of thing, I don't think they have much, as far as I know, at that particular gathering that is geared towards, like, small businesses and, you know, like, small-time artists and stuff like that. It's more of, like, you know, the bigger companies, the gaming industry and stuff like that. And so, I mean, like, something like that, like, yeah, you know, we don't really need that. You know, anything important that needs to be announced can be announced outside of E3, you know, but at the same time, like, you know, at the smaller conventions that, you know, certain artists are, like, actually depending on for their livelihood, it's kind of scary to think that, you know, this kind of thing can just threaten that just out of the blue. Yeah. And it's just amazing how much it can change. I know there's been, you know, so much debate online about, you know, well, you know, you're supposed to stay home and things are being canceled left and right. And it's like, okay, well, how are we going to pay our bills then? You know, because, you know, most, and when I say most, I mean statistically most of the people in the U.S., we don't have even $1,000 in our savings. I know I don't.
Exactly.
You know, if we were to miss a paycheck, we could completely get messed over. Like, we could get evicted because we can't pay our rent. We can't pay our bills. We can't, you know, get food or anything like that. So it's kind of just this balancing act of, you know, we want to be cautious and everything, but at the same time, in America, our social safety net is not where it would need to be to support this kind of pandemic. I know Italy has more or less shut down because of it, because of the rate of infection over there. But at the same time, you know, bills are more or less being put on hold, or they're being canceled so that people don't have to worry about, you know, running out of money, running out of food, you know, having to prioritize this over that. So it's, you know, more of a situation that their social safety net is prepared or better prepared for something like this than ours. And it kind of just really shows the cracks in our system.
Okay, so without getting too political then, I think that's all we have for today. I guess in the end, it's like, be socially responsible, support local, wash your hands, and
wash your hands.
And wash your hands.
Yes. Even if you've already washed them, wash them again.
Wash them again.
Yes.
All right.
And for the 20 seconds, you don't have to do the happy birthday song if you don't want to. There's all kinds of songs out there. I've actually, like, seen people posting, like, oh, this is 20 seconds, and oh, this is 20 seconds. Like,
oh, I love those. Yep.
Yes, like, they're, you know,
I can't think of any right now, but every time I see them, I'm chuckling and I'm thinking, yes, let's do it.
There's so many entertaining ways to go about it. Like, it's 20 seconds, y'all. It can prevent the spread of a virus. So come on, do your part.
Yes. And with that, I'm Lindsay.
And I'm Teegan. And thanks for getting nerdy with us today on Beauties and Headcanons.